Chicago, Chicago, that toddling town.
Of the Red for Ed moral travesty, these teachers are the last people who should be screaming for higher pay. Not that some don't deserve it. What are the teachers teaching the children with this absurd march? They are teaching that critical thinking is not important. Just go with those feelings. They are teaching that if you can gather enough uninformed people together, you could break the law without consequence. They are teaching students that mobs rule. Governor Ducey and SBI Diane Douglas are slobbering all over themselves, applauding this illegal act. And what does that tell our kids? It tells them that swarms of people can control Arizona government, and control them they did. Why aren't these 50K teachers marching to put education back in the classroom? Why aren't they marching to put civics, the Constitution, and prayer back into the classroom? The elimination of these things have produced fools who themselves don't understand these concepts. Noah Carvelis, who failed his teacher's certification test because he couldn't answer simple constitutional questions, is who these teachers are following. Why wasn't he marching against Common Core? And by the way, he is a music teacher. Music is important to societies, but hardly a requirement to become educated adults. Education ranks 26th out of 33 for necessary critical reading skills at the college level. 26th out of 33 in SAT scores required to get into that major, but jumps up to 25th of 33 in writing skills. It ranks just ahead of social services in most categories. What does that mean? It means that people with lower SAT scores choose education as their major. Now, our kids are being taught by people who are at or near the bottom of the educational knowledge ladder. And the source for that is Business Insider. As low as it is, education ranks above music majors on this scale of SAT scores. Before you really dedicated teachers jump on us for these findings, understand that these do not pertain to all teachers. There are good and even great teachers in our system. But we know that many of these people leave teaching earlier than they should to seek careers in other fields, such as private business and knowledge-rich industries, where they can use their teaching skills more fully and with less stress. Viewing this Red for Ed from the political side, because this was all about politics, and not much about the education. Perhaps you saw the interview with the teacher who confessed this was not really about teachers' salaries at all. From the American Post-Gazette. McCain destroyed the Republican Party in Arizona. Republicans are better at fighting with themselves than fighting the enemy. And it's time conservatives either put on their black armbands and examine crying in their beer, or rise to the challenge before them. Take no prisoners and give no quarter. Make no mistake, the enemy won't. It was said in the past, now we are engaged in a great civil war, testing whether that union, that nation, or any nation so conceived and so dedicated can long endure. This is not a shooting war, but it will be even more deadly to this nation. Now, we looked at the statistics about education. And it's 65% of public school 8th graders are not proficient in reading, 67% not proficient in math. 65% of the 8th graders in American public schools in 2017 were not proficient in reading, and 67% were not proficient in mathematics, according to the National Assessment of Educational Progress test results released by the U.S. Department of Education. The results are far worse for students enrolled in some urban districts. Among the 27 large urban districts for which the Department of Education published 2017 NAEP test scores, the Detroit Public Schools had the lowest percentage of students who scored proficient or better in math and the lowest percentage who scored proficient or better in reading. Only 5% of Detroit Public School 8th graders were proficient or better in math. Only 7% were proficient or better in reading. In the Cleveland Public Schools, only 11% of 8th graders were proficient or better in math, and only 10% were proficient or better in reading. In the Baltimore Public Schools, only 11% were proficient or better in math, and only 13% were proficient or better in reading. Among the states, Louisiana Public Elementary Schools did the worst in teaching students math, and New Mexico Public Elementary Schools did the worst job teaching reading. In the Louisiana Public Schools, only 19% of the 8th graders were proficient or better in math, and only 25% were proficient or better in reading. In the New Mexico Public Schools, only 24% were proficient or better in reading, and the Department of Education's National Center for Education Statistics describes what it means to be proficient in math and reading. 8th graders performing at the proficient level should understand the connections between fractions, percents, decimals, and other mathematical topics such as algebra and functions. Says NCES. Students at this level are expected to have a thorough understanding of basic level arithmetic operations and understanding sufficient for problem solving in practical situations. When it comes to reading, 8th grade students performing at the proficient level should be able to provide relevant information and summarize main ideas and themes. They should be able to make and support inferences about a text, connect parts of a text, and analyze text features. Students performing at this level should also be able to fully substantiate judgments about content and presentation of content. The NAEP math and reading tests are scored on a scale of 0 to 500. The average reading score for an 8th grade public school student on the 2017 NAEP test was 265. That was slightly above the average score of 264 that public school 8th graders achieved in 2015, but slightly below the average score of 266 public school 8th graders achieved in 2013. The average math score for an 8th grade public school student on a 2017 NAEP test was 282. That was slightly above the average score of 281 in 2015, but slightly less than the average score of 284 in 2013. Now, I want you to understand that in Arizona, we were 27th out of 50 in math and 38th out of 50 in reading. Those are pretty bad numbers. So we'll see you in the next segment and talk a little further.
Olivia from Washington. Laid off and trying to keep our little kids from realizing that Mommy and Daddy haven't eaten in a while.
Roger from California. I'm grateful we could afford our son's surgery. I'm nervous that now we can't really afford food.
Daniel from California. Choosing whether to pay the rent or pay to fix the car to get to work doesn't leave us with much at all. Now we can't even pay for meals.
Donna from Louisiana. The storm just hit, and we went from donating to the food bank to needing it.
Keisha from South Carolina. I've been skipping meals so my 2 kids can eat, but filling up on water doesn't really work.
Hunger is a story we can end. End it at feedingamerica.org. Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
People are always talking about the stock market, always looking to invest in a good opportunity, something with the potential to grow. So what if you could invest in the future of kids, like a stock? Not the kind of stock that's about taking money, but a stock for social change. A whole new kind of investment called Better Futures from UNCF. Your investment can help students go to college, which ends up making the future better for everybody. Visit uncf.org/invest. A mind is a terrible thing to waste, but a wonderful thing to invest in. A message from UNCF and the Ad Council.
Today we decided to walk to school. The light counted. 15, 14...
31? I mean, 13? We
took a left on Carroll Street. Danny's smart, but he gets distracted.
I
realized he forgot his homework. I hope he doesn't have another bad day at school.
When you can see learning and attention issues from their side, you can be on their side. That's why there's Understood.org, a free resource for the parents of the 1 in 5 kids with learning and attention issues. Go from misunderstanding to Understood.org. Brought to you by Understood and the Ad Council.
And it's a beautiful day here at the Search Engine and Digital Marketing Race in beautiful Tempe, Arizona. The horses lining up at the gate now, waiting for the bell. And they're off. It's just a two-way race today between your business brand and your relentless competition. Oh, but wait a minute. You've just hired War Horse Agency for your digital marketing and are quickly taking the lead in your market. Well, hang on to your seat, though. Your competition started their own Google AdWords pay-per-click campaign and are trying to catch up to you now. Good for you, though. They have no idea what they're doing. But don't worry yet. Your digital marketing jockey at Warhorse Agency tirelessly regains the lead with a great viral Facebook ad as well as your own Google SEO and pay-per-click campaign ran by a Warhorse, true leading generating professional. Holy smokes, your business just got a major lead. You're on the first page of Google now, and as they approach the finish line, your business wins. Thanks, Warhorse Agency, for another smashing victory. Contact us today for your free digital marketing evaluation. Visit us at www.gowarhorse.com today.
Okay, we're back. And our special guest is here, Jim O'Connor. And Jim is running for Corporation Commission. And he's running as on the Clean Election campaign, right?
I am.
And he's going to tell us all about why he's running clean elections.
Well, Ron, thanks for having me back on your show. It's been some time, I think, since last we met, and that may have been a discussion on National Popular Vote Compact.
Right.
And that continues to be a threat floating out there that may hit the ballot this November. And that's up there largely to drive Democrat voter turnout to the polls. So we need to be careful and fight against that with everything we have. I haven't dropped that ball, even though I did enter the statewide race for a seat on our Arizona Corporation Commission. But you asked me specifically about clean elections, and I'm happy to share with you and your audience of listeners about clean elections. 20 years ago in our state, 1998, the people voted just marginally in favor of a citizens' initiative, a proposition as it were, that created clean elections in our state. And they began in the year 2000, which is the year I moved here, had escaped from a 30-year sentence in lovely Los Angeles, California, got the hell out and made it to God's country here in Arizona, where I've been enjoying my time ever since. But clean elections is an interesting phenomenon. It gives individual citizens the ability to put their hat in the ring to run for public office with a state job. Clean elections is available only for people running for the Arizona State House, the Arizona State Senate, Corporation Commission, Superintendent of Public Instruction, and the mine inspector, treasurer, secretary of state, governor, and those offices, statewide offices.
Okay.
Clean is not available. If you're running for Congress or the Senate, no clean elections. If you're running for a county job like supervisor or sheriff, no clean elections. Cities, school boards, no clean elections. It's just for state of Arizona business. But here's the big prize in this. Every candidate, the clean elections is a nonpartisan funding mechanism for regular people, non-politicians, to put their hat in the ring and give it a go to get elected as a state rep, state senator, or one of the executive offices in the state. And being a clean elections candidate, the best way to learn something is to jump in and test the water yourself. And I really opened my eyes, and that of many more Republicans, to the benefits of clean elections. It's largely been a Democratic tool. They've been very smart to take advantage of that, and they still have a big lead on Republicans using the clean elections. And here's why it's good. Let's use LD 27. You may often have in 27, 29, 30, and other dominant Democrat districts, we, the Republicans, may not even have candidates on the ballot in those jurisdictions. And for a very practical reason, if the voter registration numbers are so highly favored to one party over another, the minority party, in our case the Republicans in so many districts, don't have any men and women willing to run because there are no other Republicans willing to waste precious resources, that is money, on a race that's impossible to win. However, if you have an LD meeting, and let's say you have 50 people at the meeting or 100 people, try this. Raise your hand. Anyone want to be our state Senate candidate? One person. We only need one. And can I have 2 volunteers to run for the state house in LD 27? And then we have 2 more. Now we have a slate. Each of those candidates need the support of the precinct committeemen and other Republican clubs to help them get $245 contributions to clean elections. And here's the payoff. Each one of those candidates get approximately $17,000 to pay for a primary campaign. 17 times 3, that's 51 grand of money that the party would not have to advertise the brand in LD 27. And then because they will each win their primary because they're unopposed by other Republicans, then you have each of them getting an additional $27,000 from the State Clean Elections Fund. That's $78,000. So the Republican brand in a district where we couldn't win anyway would now have a real budget of $120,000 to $130,000 being spent advertising the Republican platform, advertising those Republican candidates. It would present every voter with an alternative on the ballot if they didn't want to vote for the dominant Democrat. And I think now times just the 3 districts I illustrated, and we probably got a dozen in the state where we are the minority party, right? So I think that's smart, and we're using the public's money to build the Republican brand, and I think that's a win-win.
Well, I agree with you completely. Part of the big problem that the Republican Party has is the establishment doesn't seem to care about the average Republican. And getting people from the masses, so to speak, to run for office and to actually become involved and active in the party is a good thing and can only help to end this rampant corruption that's going on from county level or city level all the way to the White House.
That swamp and cesspool that Trump has been draining,
right,
is right here in Arizona state government and in the state party activities. It is right here in the county, at the county level. It's at the LD level. It's throughout, because the establishment people that you mentioned, that's top-down control. That's not grassroots.
Right.
And they don't want the people, they don't want a strong Republican Party apparatus, because that'll be another strongman to hold them accountable. They're not interested in accountability.
No, that's true. And we need to get the message out and get this establishment destroyed, so to speak.
Yeah.
So.
And that's the element of party building. This kind of thing, watering the grassroots and giving food to nourish it up and aerate it, is a big positive in terms of party building.
Right.
And we can talk about that on the endorsement issue as well. That goes back about 1.5 years when I ran for chairman of AZ GOP and did not want any endorsements, because endorsements don't build a party internally, they destroy a party.
Yes.
But if you're not interested in a strong party, you're happy to destroy it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they seem to be doing that daily.
Indeed.
Yeah, and it's just I only wish I was 20 years younger so that I could get much more active and get things going again, because it's just what I have learned over the last 15 years in Arizona is amazing. I started out as a libertarian here, and it got no help whatsoever when I ran against Pastor. But then I joined the Republican Party, and I was amazed that the help that I was looking for was nowhere to be found. And then we started out as a small, in LD 27, it was LD 16 at the time. There were 5 of us sitting around in a trailer park, what do they call it, the administration building of a trailer park. And that was our total amount of people in the LD. And we built it up to 77. And then we got screwed in the
redistricting
and lost half of our people and had to start all over again. But in any case, I did run clean elections at one time for, I don't remember what it was for at this point, but...
Well, it would have had to been either a state senate or a state house seat.
Yeah, it was a state
because it's
house seat.
only available for that.
Yeah. Well, we'll be back in a few minutes, and I hope you find this interesting.
That title in town. Chicago, Chicago, I will show you around.
Olivia from Washington. Laid off and trying to keep our little kids from realizing that Mommy and Daddy haven't eaten in a while.
Roger from California. I'm grateful we could afford our son's surgery. I'm nervous that now we can't really afford food.
Daniel from California. Choosing whether to pay the rent or pay to fix the car to get to work doesn't leave us with much at all. Now we can't even pay for meals.
Donna from Louisiana. The storm just hit, and we went from donating to the food bank to needing it.
Keisha from South Carolina. I've been skipping meals so my 2 kids can eat, but filling up on water doesn't really work.
Hunger is a story we can end. End it at feedingamerica.org. Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
People are always talking about the stock market, always looking to invest in a good opportunity, something with the potential to grow. So what if you could invest in the future of kids, like a stock? Not the kind of stock that's about taking money, but a stock for social change. A whole new kind of investment called Better Futures from UNCF. Your investment can help students go to college, which ends up making the future better for everybody. Visit uncf.org/invest. A mind is a terrible thing to waste, but a wonderful thing to invest in. A message from UNCF and the Ad Council.
Today we decided to walk to school. The light counted. 15, 14...
41, 31? I mean, 13? We
took a left on Carroll Street. Danny's smart, but he gets distracted.
I
realized he forgot his homework. I hope he doesn't have another bad day at school.
When you can see learning and attention issues from their side, you can be on their side. That's why there's Understood.org, a free resource for the parents of the 1 in 5 kids with learning and attention issues. Go from misunderstanding to Understood.org. Brought to you by Understood and the Ad Council.
And it's a beautiful day here at the search engine and digital marketing race in beautiful Tempe, Arizona. The horses lining up at the gate now, waiting for the bell. And they're off. It's just a two-way race today between your business brand and your relentless competition. Oh, but wait a minute. You've just hired Warhorse Agency for your digital marketing and are quickly taking the lead in your market. Well, hang on to your seat, though. Your competition started their own Google AdWords pay-per-click campaign and are trying to catch up to you now. Good for you, though. They have no idea what they're doing. But don't worry yet. Your digital marketing jockey at Warhorse Agency tirelessly regains the lead with a great viral Facebook ad as well as your own Google SEO and pay-per-click campaign ran by a Warhorse true leading generating professional. Holy smokes, your business just got a major lead. You're on the first page of Google now, and as they approach the finish line, your business wins. Thanks, Warhorse Agency, for another smashing victory. Contact us today for your free digital marketing evaluation. Visit us at www.gowarhorse.com today.
Chicago, the town that Billy Sunday couldn't shut down.
Yes. Hi there, Eric. We're back. And now, Jim, we talked about clean elections. And how does that, I know you're running for Corporation Council Commission. How does that affect your state run for that?
Well, I did share with you if an individual chooses to run for a state house or a state senate seat, they would have available about $43,000 between primary and general from the clean elections. That's public funding of campaigns. What's also nice about public funding of campaigns at any level is that one can say and mean that when they are elected, they don't owe anybody a favor because they didn't take any special interest money. However, let me address this because I'm in a statewide race, as you mentioned, and my burden is a lot greater than $240 $5 contributions. Our minimum for statewide office is $1,500 $5 contributions, and we are advised by Clean Elections to get a 20% greater number than that, so $1,800 $5 contributions. That is no small task. I've been at it now for 6 full months, and I'm only at $1,400. So I still have another 100 to go before I qualify for that payment from the state to run a primary race. So I am working very diligently over this month of May to get the balance of those $5 clean election individual contributions turned in. And when I have those, let's say I get all 1,800 that Clean Elections has recommended, well, 1,800 times $5 is $9,000. So I then go down with my campaign manager to the Clean Elections people. I give them 1,800 signed forms for each donor for the $5. And I write a check from my campaign because I've collected all those fives. I turn that over to the Clean Elections Fund. So they get the $9,000 that the public has contributed to support my race. But the big win is I get back in return $108,000 to pay for a primary race, June, July, and August, with the primary being August 28th. And if I finish in the top 2 on the Republican primary, and I say top 2 because there are 2 open seats on the Corporation Commission. So the Republicans will elect 2, the Democrats will elect 2, and then the state will give my campaign an additional $163,000. So I get 5 from 1,800 people, turn 9,000 into the state. I get 108 for a primary, 163 for a general. That's 271,000 and small change to pay to get a message out on why I am the single most qualified candidate to be elected to a position called Corporation Commission in our state. And we can begin to have a conversation about those qualifications and what my intents are once elected to the commission. But it's a very, very big bank account to pay for getting the message out to voters and to choose a candidate.
Oh, that certainly is.
I think so.
Yeah, that's a lot of money to get back for $9,000, basically.
Right.
But it's a lot of work to collect $1,800.
Amen, brother. Amen.
But it's worth it, and actually, collecting the $1,800 probably gives you a lot of exposure in the electorate, and helps to get you votes anyway.
Well, let me address that, because that's a very important finding for me on clean elections as a whole. For every candidate, this process is a very rigorous process. It causes individual men and women who seek to serve in public office, it causes us to go out and burn the shoe leather, as it were, to meet with voters and loads of people we don't know. I mean, to touch 1,800 people is a massive undertaking. And then to convince them to give you $5. It's the same sale if they were going to give me 500 or 5,000. It takes that much time, focus, and energy to close that sale, selling oneself to a voter.
Sometimes more.
Yes, and sometimes more. And but what's great about that is it's a very rigorous process that people that wish to serve in the public domain really ought to go through. Nobody can buy this office or self-fund. It's very easy for a rich man to pay whatever price to get signatures. They don't even have to go out and shake a hand if they don't want to do it. But this process of asking for fives, you've got to do it in person. You've got to do it close to you.
Yeah, it's not everybody's out there that's named Donald Trump.
No. Let me share with you a couple of interesting facts statewide. About a month ago, I checked with Clean Elections. Currently, there are 80 people running for statewide office as clean election candidates here in Arizona, of all parties put together. At that time, there were 17 Republicans running under clean election. There were 51 Democrats running under clean election. Now do the math. 17 times 3 is 51. So the Democrats occupy 75% of the field. We, the Republicans, only occupy 25% of the field because we've got attitude about clean elections. Some say out of principle we don't like clean elections. As a matter of fact, I'll be on record and on public radio sharing this. I was down at the Secretary of State's office complaining because numerous people attempted to give me $5 online through the Secretary of State and Clean Election website, and they ran into mechanical difficulty. They have a PayPal vendor set up to take credit and debit cards to make that easy. And when I kicked off my campaign, I was hoping to do the overwhelmingly large percentage of signatures and clean election contributions online through the respective website. And I was told by high powers in the Secretary of State's office under Republican control right now that they don't like clean elections. I was a little ticked off when I heard that because clean elections is the law of our state, whether those office holders or appointees like it or not. And I told them to replace that vendor if he's not doing a good job. So it looks like we may have to replace some people in the Secretary of State's office, that I'm honest enough to put that right out there. Deal with it.
Well, I think that's probably true, and that's more than likely part of the establishment again. And as we said before, they are not interested in winning. They are only interested in preserving their own
control over things.
Fiefdom, if you will.
Exactly.
So in any case, well, that's a very interesting situation.
Yeah, but Republicans generally need to have more of an open mind and be very positively disposed toward clean elections. One last point on where the Democrats are able to occupy so much of the field and win so much with clean elections is this. If a man's running for a state house seat or a Senate seat, they go into an LD and maybe one or two Republican clubs and they ask for the $5 bills. And there are a few good souls that'll immediately donate a $5. And then they get a couple of PCs and political activists working with them, and then they begin to get tens. So they need 240, they're now up to 150, but they've now exhausted everybody they know. Meanwhile, in the Democrat households, the candidate goes to a teachers union meeting or a firefighters union meeting or an SEIU union meeting. And the union hall just happens to have at least 240 people in there. And the political leader in that very well-organized and well-run machine says to their members, Sally Smith here is our candidate for XYZ. Pull $5 out of your purse and fill out the form. And that candidate is funded after one meeting. They walk down to clean elections, knock on the door, submit the forms, and they get their $17,000 check immediately. Whereas Republicans are still wanting to be sold. So we need to get better if we really have a party, if we really want a party. And at this point, I'm not sure we do. I'm hopeful that some of the younger people that you and I talk about so frequently when we're together, because we're both well past 39.
Yes.
And we need young people to take the baton where not only our generation, but the one right behind us has utterly failed.
Yes, and it's apparent in almost every LD that I see where the PC slots are not filled. There's all kinds of vacancies, and even when you go to the meetings, there's hardly anyone there because they're just not interested or haven't got the energy or the time to put into the to helping to develop the party. So we'll be back. We have another segment coming up, and we'll be back shortly. So until then, hang in there, folks.
On State Street, that great street, I just want to say, they do things they don't do on Broadway.
Olivia from Washington. Laid off and trying to keep our little kids from realizing that Mommy and Daddy haven't eaten in a while.
Roger from California. I'm grateful we could afford our son's surgery. I'm nervous that now we can't really afford food.
Daniel from California. Choosing whether to pay the rent or pay to fix the car to get to work doesn't leave us with much at all. Now we can't even pay for meals.
Donna from Louisiana. The storm just hit, and we went from donating to the food bank to needing it.
Keisha from South Carolina. I've been skipping meals so my 2 kids can eat, but filling up on water doesn't really work.
Hunger is a story we can end. End it at feedingamerica.org. Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
People are always talking about the stock market, always looking to invest in a good opportunity, something with the potential to grow. So what if you could invest in the future of kids, like a stock? Not the kind of stock that's about taking money, but a stock for social change. a whole new kind of investment called Better Futures from UNCF. Your investment can help students go to college, which ends up making the future better for everybody. Visit uncf.org/invest. A mind is a terrible thing to waste, but a wonderful thing to invest in. A message from UNCF and the Ad Council.
Today we decided to walk to school. The light counted. 15, 14.
41, 31, 13. We
took a left on Carroll Street. Danny's smart, but he gets distracted.
I
realized he forgot his homework. I hope he doesn't have another bad day at school.
When you can see learning and attention issues from their side, you can be on their side. That's why there's Understood.org, a free resource for the parents of the 1 in 5 kids with learning and attention issues. Go from misunderstanding to Understood.org. Brought to you by Understood and the Ad Council.
And it's a beautiful day here at the Search Engine and Digital Marketing Race in beautiful Tempe, Arizona. The horses lining up at the gate now, waiting for the bell. And they're off. It's just a two-way race today between your business brand and your relentless competition. Oh, but wait a minute. You've just hired Warhorse Agency for your digital marketing and are quickly taking the lead in your market. Well, hang on to your seat, though. Your competition started their own Google AdWords pay-per-click campaign and are trying to catch up to you now. Good for you, though. They have no idea what they're doing. But don't worry yet. Your digital marketing jockey at Warhorse Agency tirelessly regains the lead with a great viral Facebook ad as well as your own Google SEO and pay-per-click campaign ran by a Warhorse, true leading generating professional. Holy smokes, your business just got a major lead. You're on the first page of Google now, and as they approach the finish line, your business wins. Thanks, Warhorse Agency, for another smashing victory. Contact us today for your free digital marketing evaluation. Visit us at www.gowarhorse.com today.
I saw a man, he danced with his wife in Chicago, Chicago, my hometown.
Hey, we're back. Now, Jim, you're running for Corporation Council.
Commission. I am.
Just what does the Corporation Commission do, and how do you fit in there with your experience?
Thanks for that excellent question. I've found campaigning for the last 6 months around the state that there are a shockingly large number of Arizona voters that don't really know what our Corporation Commission does. So let me take the clock back just 106 short years ago when we became a state. In the Constitution of Arizona that was adopted at that time, we, the people of Arizona, created the Corporation Commission as a separate and freestanding division of our government. So we've got our Supreme Court, we've got our executive branch, and we've got our legislative branch with our House and Senate. And then we have a fourth branch of government called the Arizona Corporation Commission. And it was originally charged with regulating railroads, gas pipeline service, later telecommunications, and then in the 1920s, I believe, we began regulating rates pursuant to the Constitution, that ratepayers pay for power and water from private companies that the state has given monopoly powers to. So, and then later than that, through legislation, we received additional powers from the state Senate and House to regulate and audit all investment advisory practices and all securities firms. And we license every corporation and every limited liability company doing business in the state. It's a very big job. And in one sense, it's truly a nonpartisan job. We're not going to be up, build the wall, don't build the wall, kill sanctuary cities, don't kill sanctuary cities. We're not in these hot button issues, but that doesn't take away from the importance and significance of the role. So what are we Arizonans doing when we elect a corporation commission? We are electing a man or a woman from either party to serve a 4-year term as a judge to adjudicate just what is a fair and reasonable rate for ratepayers to pay for our water and power. In other words, APS cannot charge any of their customers 1 penny more without approval of our corporation commissioners by a majority vote, 3-2, 4-1, or 5-0 unanimous vote. And in the last decade, we've had a lot of people on the commission that have winked and nodded and voted, oh sure, raise them up, raise them up, raise them up. I'd like to bring a little more rigor to that process and say maybe not so fast. Maybe we need to have you justify that a little bit more. But the job is that of a judge. So we can't come on and say one way or the other, what are we going to do about rates? Because we are reactive. We're a government agency that is reactive and responsive to rate requests by those monopoly businesses. We are not a chief executive function in that regard at all.
Oh.
So let me mention one thing there, and this kind of came to me long after I filed and began to explore all the activities and responsibilities of commissioners, and I learned this. I've been retired. I moved to Arizona to retire. I sold my investment advisory practice to a major international law firm back in 2001, and have been living happily ever after here in Arizona. And I was actually solicited by a group of Republicans out in the West Valley who last summer experienced some sticker shock on APS and EPCOR water rate increases. I was told by as much as 40%, which in a retirement community, that's a wallop and a half. And I was asked if I would consider running because they believed we needed someone with integrity on the Corporation Commission. And thankfully, my good reputation, not only from my investment days, but on into retirement, has remained pristine in that regard. And they saw that in me and asked me if I would consider running. And if I would consider running, would I run as a clean election candidate? Because they wanted me to be able to say, which I can say and mean, that when elected with all those $5 contributions, I don't owe anybody any favors. And that's a position I'm going to hold very, very strongly to all the way through the race. And I like that. And so
I do too, by the way.
Thank you. So one other point that I'd like to make, of the 5 currently serving commissioners and the 4 young gentlemen that are running against me for these 2 open seats, none of them have 42 years of experience in the investment business as I do. I owned my own firm. Again, I've got decades of experience, and I've accumulated over that lifetime, in addition to a white head of hair, a lot of wisdom. And I can bring that to play in a very, very unique way as a member of that commission.
Oh, that sounds very interesting, and your qualifications seem to be much more so than some of the other people that are running against you. So I can only hope that you win and take the commission to the point where it's actually a what's the word I'm looking for?
Politicized.
A non-politicized situation.
Ron, let me also use this opportunity for all voters to break voting down into 3 components from the candidate's perspective. Number 1, every candidate needs signatures. Why? To qualify for inclusion on the ballot.
Wrap it up.
Okay. Number 2, we need $5 clean election contributions. For those, please go to the W's.O'Connor, OCONNORAZ.com, and you'll be able to donate $5 and sign my petition. After that's finished, then we'll talk about me wanting your vote. Thank you.
Olivia from Washington. Laid off and trying to keep our little kids from realizing that Mommy and Daddy haven't eaten in a while.
Roger from California. I'm